Hi, Eric Edine here, and I have my very first Lesson to Learn video that we're going to start into right now. And we're excited about this. And let me just say at the onset here, if you haven't looked at the introductory video, it may be worthwhile to take a look at that so that you know a little bit of the backstory for it. But I'm going to pick up this time around pretty much where I left off of that introductory video. Was August 21st, 1994. It was the first day that I arrived in Papua New Guinea, in Hoskins, to the center there as a new missionary. I wasn't there on a short-term summer trip. I was there to live, to work, to minister, and it was exciting. This was the culmination of, 6 years of anticipation. And so, we're excited. And you get off the plane, and there's a spring in your step, and everything's excited, everything's new, and it's great, and it's wonderful. And then you go to bed, and you wake up the next morning, and it's blazing hot, and it's intense, but you're still excited because everything is new, and it's like you've arrived, or so I thought. And it's exciting. You're meeting people that you haven't known before, and that's great. But you don't have relationships with them per se. They're existing missionaries, and they have their own ministries that they're involved in. And so the first week rolls along, the second week rolls along, and some of the excitement starts to fade a bit. You could say the honeymoon period starts to diminish. And the other thing you end up running into more often than not is culture shock, culture stress. A lot of you have or some of you have understood that. Anybody who's gone through COVID has gotten a little bit of a taste of that, in that, you're in a situation where maybe you're not able to go to work, or the kids are home. You don't know what's going on in life, and so everything is a little bit out of sorts, and it's not predictable, and that's culture shock. Is that in spades. You don't know how to act. You don't know how to react to the situations that you're in, and everything is kind of confusing. Things that you normally could do easily with confidence, you find yourself stumbling through and being very unsure of yourself. And so you go through this whole process. One of the other challenges I had in that initial stage was, I wasn't on the center with other people. I was a kilometer away, like half a mile away from the center in this block house, living by myself. And I'm not throwing anybody under the bus as far as like leadership for why they put me down there. It's just that was the circumstances that I ran into. So I'm there. I'm living, half a kilometer or a kilometer, half a mile away from the center. I'm going and seeing people, but I don't really know them. I'm started into orientation, started into pidgin language and culture study. We're involved in different things, but very much still kind of unsettled, still trying to figure out, what is my role here? What am I going to be doing here? And the lesson that I want to go over today is, and I wrote it down, simply stated, the Lord will always allow tests to come our way to challenge our determination to follow His lead. Let me say that one more time. The Lord will allow tests to come our way to challenge our determination to follow His lead. Now, I came to the mission field. I knew that's where God wanted me. No questions asked. And so I'm there, but things didn't go the way I thought they should. I didn't feel like settled. I didn't feel I could say that a whole lot, because some of my feelings were like all over the place. The loneliness that's involved with like being on the other side of the world, away from friends, established friendships, family, and the like. So I'm there. It's very unsettled. I'm getting to know PNG citizens there, but the culture is different, and I don't know the pidgin language very well. I'm just in the midst of learning that, and it's just awkward and a bit challenging to develop relationships that way. And so there was these challenges coming, and then all of a sudden I had to go like, okay, why am I here? Oh yeah, God wanted me here. He sent me here. I have no question in that. But then these tests come. And let me just say this, because hopefully some of the people that are going to view this are people that are like, okay, I want to go to the mission field. I want to serve God in a different context. Maybe even you're going to be a pastor, but you're going to be a pastor in a different town, or in a part of the country where you're not familiar. So you're going to go there, and all of a sudden, wow, I don't know anybody here. I've got to understand the context where I'm serving. And the thing that I want to say in this is that, and I've seen this not only in my life, but in the life of virtually every missionary that I've served alongside, is that you get into these new locations, and it's not going to be easy. It's going to be hard. There's going to be all sorts of times where you're going like, okay, am I making progress towards the goal that I feel that God sent me here to do? Or am I just spinning my wheels? And a lot of times you feel like, okay, I'm just spinning my wheels. And then it's like, okay, the tendency is to go, okay, maybe I'm not where God wants me to be. And so you start questioning whether or not you're where you should be doing what you're supposed to be doing right now. And that's the challenge of to go, am I going to punch out and head home, or am I going to stay the course? Am I going to trust that God sent me here and that he hasn't made it clear to me that he's changed his mind, so I shouldn't change mine? I need to stay the course. There's a couple good biblical examples that I want to look at just real quick. The first one is in a sense the good example, and that's found in 2 Chronicles 21, and that's King Hezekiah. Now, I'm not going to read a ton of this, but I mean, we know the story of King Hezekiah. The very end of chapter 31, I'll just read the 2 verses. In this way, King Hezekiah handled the distribution throughout all Judea, doing what was pleasing and good in the sight of the Lord his God. And all that he did in the service of the temple of God and in his efforts to follow God's laws and commands, Hezekiah sought his God wholeheartedly. As a result, he was very successful. So you're going like, okay, Hezekiah, where God wants him to be, doing what he's supposed to be doing, and he's very successful. Yeah, what could be better? And then all of a sudden, what happens the very next verse? 32 verse 1, after Hezekiah had faithfully carried out his work, King Sennacherib of Assyria invaded Judah. It's like, what? Hezekiah is all of a sudden, he's gone, he's done what he's supposed to, and then all of a sudden something sideswipes him out of nowhere. And he's going, okay, what am I supposed to do with this? Okay, is he going to stay the course, or is he going to reject what God is wanting to do in this situation? And the good thing is, we see from the rest of that chapter, it's like, okay, he comes before the Lord and he asks God to intervene in this situation, and he stays the course. And God helps him. He delivers him from the Assyrian army. And that's awesome. Okay, the other example, though, is of Elijah. And we know this is another one of those very common stories. And you go to 1 Kings chapter 18, and it talks about like the classic story of Elijah when he's having this contest of power, as it were, with the prophets of Baal on the top of Mount Carmel. So he's up there, and we know the story. He goes in, and fire ends up coming down from heaven, burns up the sacrifice, burns up the wood, the stones, the water, the whole kit and caboodle is just gone. All the people excited. They go down, they kill the prophets of Baal. Okay, we're heading in the right direction. He goes back up, he prays. God sends clouds that is going to stop and the drought. So, I mean, everything is going. I mean, he's got to be pumped. And so then he takes off, and the very next verse, what happens, you get to chapter 19, and it says, well, even the title says, Elijah flees to Sinai. It says, when Ahab got home, he told Jezebel everything Elijah had done, and long story short, Jezebel says, okay, we're gonna kill this guy. And he hears about it, and what's his response? Elijah was afraid and fled for his life. He went to Beersheba, a town in Judah, and he left a servant there. Then he went on alone into the wilderness, traveling all day. He sat down under a solitary broom tree and prayed that he might die. "I've had enough, Lord," he said. "Take my life, for I am no better than my ancestors who have already died." Okay, this is the other way that we can respond to the tests that God allows to come our way, to see whether we'll actually stay the course, whether we'll actually continue to trust him when the challenges come. And in this case, Elijah's like, he punches out. He wants to, like, I'm out of here. And so he goes down and he has a pity party under the broom tree and just wants to be done. If I'm honest, those first 2 years, I probably had as many or more Elijah moments than I had Hezekiah moments. The encouraging part for me in all of it wasn't that, okay, I had, today it was a Hezekiah, or yesterday, that was an Elijah moment. But the exciting part for me, or the encouraging part for me, was God's grace in it all. Because I had both of those times, especially when I had the Elijah moments when I'm like, I'm just frustrated. I'm discouraged by the circumstances, that things, this testing, the challenges have come, and I don't know how to deal with them. But God in his grace was still sufficient. And if you go on in chapter 19 of 1 Kings, is that what happens, okay? He laid down under and slept under the broom tree, but what happens? An angel comes and says, hey, you got a long way to go. Here's some food, here's some water, eat it, because you need to be strengthened. And God knows that we need to be strengthened. And then he does that all over again, because, man, you've got a long ways to go. And he did. He ended up going 40 days, all the way down to Sinai. He goes up into a cave, and what happens? God comes to him. Not in an earthquake, not in a fire, comes with a still small voice. And that's the beauty of it. That's what I experienced when I was struggling through those first 2 years, and since then as well. But to be able to go, okay, God with his still small voice is saying, okay, I want you are going to struggle through the testing, but you need to persevere. You need to soldier on, not in your own strength, but in mine. And I'm going to come to you graciously as your father. And in that still small voice, going to speak to my heart to be able to say, it's okay. I'll strengthen you, and I will help you persevere. I will help you continue on. And there's no other way. You can't be tough enough. You can't be strong enough in yourself to be able to get it, to work through, to be able to continue on in the mission field. During my years on the mission field, I'm acutely aware of the fact that it's not in my strength or in my power that I've been able to persevere. There's been so many trials that have come my way that have scared me, that have intimidated me, that have discouraged me. And yet time and time again, God's grace, his strength has been sufficient. And his still small voice comes and speaks to me and says, continue going. I almost think of Paul numerous times where he's like, what should I do? And the Spirit came to him and said, hey, keep speaking, keep going. Even at the end there, he said, hey, don't worry about it. You're going to Rome. And, even when there was that shipwreck, when they were on the ship, he said, hey, all the people that are with you, they're going to be okay as well. And so God comes to us and he reassures us and he allows us to know that he's capable of keeping us going on. That's the first lesson I learned, and that I'm still learning. And I trust that this will be something that can encourage you as well, because the trials will come and we can't avoid them. And we really shouldn't avoid them, because during those trials, that's when God comes to us in amazing and new ways.